Hey guys, today's video is about an activity analysis, what it is and what happens once it's performed. So activity analysis is basically when a sport or an activity is observed and it's sort of broken down into different components such as what energy systems are used, the fitness components, any movement patterns, and also work to rest ratios. And so what happens is the coach and their assistants will break the game down into piece by piece, and then they will use that to create a tailored training program for the athlete. Now, with activity analysis, it's generally easier to perform one of these on a team-based sport. Obviously, if you're running a marathon, you don't have a movement pattern because you're just running forward. You also would not really have a work to rest ratio because you don't get any rest periods in a marathon unless you choose to, obviously. So generally it's based on team sports. Really good ones to think about are AFL football and also netball. It also, although we won't focus on this, it also allows coaches to analyse the tactics of the opponents and also their playing style. So for example, they'll sit down and watch a video of different opponents before a match is coming up so they can analyse what to play against. Alright, so how is data collected? There's 6 different ways. So these first 3 ones are the mainstream ones. So observation. So basically people standing on the sidelines, observing and writing down. And also you'll need like quite a few people to do this. You can't just have one person observing. So they'll write different things like playing styles and whether people are sprinting or whether they're having rest periods and that sort of thing. Another one is statistical recording. So a really good example of this is, say for example, in the newspaper on Monday after the weekend footy, you'll see a whole table of different statistics for the football players. That sort of thing has been recorded, and it also is paid attention to by the coaches because they'll look at things like when people are inside the forward 50 line and that sort of thing. And video recording is probably the easiest one because what happens is the game will be taped and then it can be watched back over and over again, compared to observation where the recordings have to be made right there and then about certain moves that are made. Whereas video recording, you can go back and watch it, and it's a lot easier to pause whilst you're writing things down than actually trying to write them down during the actual game. Some lesser mainstream ones, but they're coming through to be more popular now, are GPS tracking devices. So they're little tags that the player will wear, and that will link up to the satellites in space, and they will track where an athlete runs on the field, and it shows whether their playing style is efficient or not, also what sort of distances they're running. And then that will also enable the coach to determine what fitness components are being used. Heart rate monitors are another popular data collection method, although they're fairly limited. They will definitely show a coach what intensities are being used. So whether a player is working in the 95% max heart rate zone or whether they're in 70% max heart rate, that sort of thing. And then again, that will help determine fitness components. SkyCam is a fairly recent one, say in the last 10 years or so, and you'll notice that this is used in sports, in particular tennis, where the camera will sit above the playing court, and it will be able to show what sort of movements were made and when. For example, when they break down where serves have landed in a court, that sort of thing can be determined by SkyCam because they've got an overhead view. So many statistics can be recorded via SkyCam. Alright, so skill analysis is something that involves recording and counting the number of relevant skills in a game. So basically how often someone does something and whether they do it successfully. So you might use something like a skill frequency chart, so there's an example there on the screen for you. And going back to tennis again, because tennis has a very set, specific amount of skills involved. Although these aren't all of them, we can see that there's a serve, a forehand, a backhand, a volley and a lob, and it records how often that they were performed and then how successful those moves were, so or how effective they were. So you would definitely have to determine prior as to what effectiveness means, whether it actually wins the shot or whether it just got in the court, because obviously players at different levels will be looking for different things. Alright, movement patterns are showing the different directions and the speeds that a player is engaging in throughout a match or a game. And there's two different ways it can be done. There's sort of a less accurate way called I suppose it's just a grid, and you draw where the people go. Now the problem with this is it's very subjective. A person might not be able to distinguish what the difference is between a jog and a run for a particular athlete, or they might just have simply a different idea to someone else as to what they are. And they also can't determine distances as well as someone else can, or as a GPS can, sorry. And the other option is a GPS tracker. Again, the athlete will wear it and the satellites will record where the person moved and how fast they went. And it's a lot more accurate, but the problem is it's a lot more expensive. So it's really only used at the elite level, not so much at the lower levels. All right, work-to-rest ratios are a very, very handy thing to learn for developing a training program. Work-to-rest ratio means how much an athlete is working compared to how much they're resting throughout a game or an activity. So generally when we talk about work, we're sort of talking about working above 70% max heart rate, so aerobic zone and beyond, whereas rest is generally below 70%, so sub-maximal and actually resting is considered rest. And the ratios that are worked out generally determine which energy system is being used. So, for example, if a person is working say 1 minute and resting for 7, so it's a work to rest ratio of 1 to 7, then they're getting plenty of time to recover their ATP-PC system. And so they'll be working quite explosively, but then having time to rest it. Whereas if that goes down to 1 to 3 or 1 to 5, that means that they're not getting as much rest time. That means they're not recovering their ATP-PC system as well, which means that they have to then use their anaerobic glycolysis system, which is, this range will cover most team sports. And then the aerobic system is a 1-to-1. So that is quite a hefty workload, and that is basically continuous activities like a marathon or a triathlon or those sort of things, where there's not much rest involved at all, where most of the rest period is at the end of the event, and that will mean that the person is working aerobically because they simply don't have that ability to work powerfully and then rest. They have to be able to work continuously, not have much rest, which means then their intensity is forced to be lower. Alright, so just in summary, the point of an activity analysis is to prepare a suitable training program. There's a few different ways to collect the data to prepare for this, and that is observation, statistics, video, GPS, heart rate, or ICAM. And then what happens with the data later on is that they'll do a skills analysis, or they'll look at movement patterns on the field, or they'll look at work to rest ratios and then determine what sort of fitness components are being used, what energy systems are being used, and also then how to tailor a program, or a training program, sorry, for each particular athlete. Now this may be something really, really specific, so they may only choose 1 or 2 fitness components to work on, or they might choose lots of different things. Alright, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.